because some people can be in low contact with their narcissistic family. That works best for them. Some people have to be in no contact due to the severity of the toxic dynamic. Most people who have gone no contact often started with low contact, hoping that this person may change and protecting their boundaries in maintaining this connection with this narcissistic person. So like I said before, there's stages to no contact. We didn't just get no contact. You know how many times you argue with this person and they continue to make you out the problem. That led to low contact, and then low contact goes into no contact. That's why low contact often happens before no contact. You start minimizing conversations. When you see the reactive behavior, you start having those boundaries. But what happens is, when you see that there's no change and you're constantly feeling drained and you're feeling less of a person, you start contemplating the idea of no contact, especially after you've seen this person will not change. It starts off low contact. I may not take a phone call today. I may not show up for you when you need to. I may put me first, but I'm still in contact with you. What often leads to no contact, you see no behaviors change with that person. No narcissistic behaviors change, and is left you with the only solution to go no contact. You go from low contact to no contact when you see that the behavior has not changed. And when you go no contact with the narcissistic person, now they're taking you serious. They become very furious and frustrated because in low contact, they knew they could still kind of manipulate and control you. Their tactics were still the same. But when you don't change, you force a person to go no contact, and then that's why they want to retaliate and come against you and cause more strife in your life when you go no contact, because now they've seen a change in you, and you're not enabling their toxic behavior. Low contact often looks like shorter visits, no personal conversations about or no personal topics. You're maintaining boundaries, delayed responses, where, for example, if a narcissistic person or parent texts you, you see the text and you don't respond, that is where low contact is most obvious. I'm still in communication with you, but I'm going to delay the conversation. I'm going to delay my response. Most of the time to rethink strategy or to process what they're saying. This is low contact. I may have a delayed response. Low contact, you still programmed in my phone. I see your messages. I may leave them on read. No contact is, I blocked you. I blocked your contact in my phone. That's the difference, because I've decided to pick me after you refuse to change. So when you're in low contact, you're aware of your limits. What happens with the narcissistic person, they press your limits with the continuation of toxic behavior, which forces you to go no contact. Low contact, you still programmed in my phone. I see your messages. I may leave them on read. No contact is, I blocked you. I blocked your contact in my phone. That's the difference, because I've decided to pick me after you refuse to change. Those are instances where no contact should be considered, especially if you have narcissistic parents. When they start threatening your peace, when they're retaliating against you, when they're gang stalking you, when they're creating smear campaigns on you, when they've created fictitious lies against your character assassination, it is time to consider no contact. This is where it is dangerous, especially if it's been a continued cycle of toxic behavior. If their contact is leaving you anxious, depressed, feeling shame and guilt, it's time to consider no contact. These are the things you need to look for. Look for those emotions, how they make you feel. How are their current behaviors making you feel? And that's when you should gauge whether you should have low contact or no contact with this person. So it's nothing wrong with grieving the loss of a dysfunctional family or grieving the loss of narcissistic parents, but you have to understand, be aware of why you're grieving them, what they did, Because when you're at an emotional state in the grievance process, a narcissistic person knows that, and they will use that for their own gain, strategically use that to bait you back in because you're vulnerable. You have to stay focused on the behaviors. If you got to write the behaviors down, when you get triggered, thinking about flashbacks, having to go no contact, that's the moment for you to get a sticky note, write the trigger down. What was it? Sometimes y'all have to visualize annotation, something there, so that you can see, so that your emotions don't get caught up. Because when they get you emotional, it's almost like a toxic relationship. When I have you in your emotional state, then it's so easy for me to come back in and bait you back in. When you're grieving people that are still alive, it's one of the most painful things that you've ever seen. When they're alive, they are still in the act of sabotaging you or making you feel less than. So those triggers are always going to be there. Truthfully, you grieve a family that is still alive, but you have to accept them for what it is. And that's one of the most difficult things children of narcissistic parents or children of dysfunctional families often deal with. So low contact is, I'm aware of the toxic behavior. I'm aware of their narcissistic behavior, but I'm in a safe space where I can maintain some level of communication with them because I have boundaries in play, and I know that their behaviors will be demonstrated, but I can control my emotions and my behaviors and regulate my emotions in this relationship dynamic. That's low contact. But we look at that with no contact. See, no contact, there's a level of silence. But you don't get to silence a narcissistic person. That's why they're always upset with you when you go no contact or you minimize your verbal conversations with them. Most of them have used that same level of tactic to control you. And I always tell people who've had narcissistic parents or dealing with narcissistic people, you have to use their own tactics against them. You're silent, I'm silent.